Ne-am întors cu Jonathan Davis la o discuție extrem de interesantă pe care o continui imediat. Jonathan, sorry for interrupting you. You started to describe extremely clear your vision about what is happening in the Middle East now. Please continue. I understood very clear. I mean, you explained very clear what is the Shia, who's behind them in Iraq and Syria, and what all of the region. Who is behind the Sunni?
Behind the Sunni right now, I mean, first of all, you had Al-Qaeda, and you had Jabhat al-Nusra, and they came out of Afghanistan, basically.
But who's behind al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda and ISIS?
They came out of Afghanistan, and there were also Muslim countries supporting them, off and on. There were Islamic countries supporting them off and on. Mm-hmm. But some of those Islamic countries woke up one day to find, that the people they're supporting, might one day take their own countries over. So there's a distance now between part of that. Now ISIS as an organization, from an economic point of view, has been able to export oil, has been able to capture banks with hundreds of millions of dollars in cash, and so on and so forth, and run a whole organization, ISIS.
How is that possible? I mean, on one side we have a country like Iran, which is quite powerful, and we have Assad, and on the other side we have only ISIS. I mean, the Daesh. I mean, I cannot believe that. For sure, it's more than that. I mean, for sure are more countries behind them. Maybe Qatar, maybe other countries, I don't know, but it doesn't look like...
Well, it appears that sometimes some of these countries have been looking the other way, You ask yourself, I mean, how was ISIS able to export all of this oil, You ask yourself, how was ISIS able to function the way they do, And you ask yourself, I mean, and this competition between the Sunni and the Shia is basically a fight that goes back 1,400 years.
Yes, exactly.
1,500, it goes back for decades and for centuries and centuries and centuries. Yes. And so you ask yourself how this can all take place. And so what concerns Israel very much with our Palestinian friends, is that we want to make sure that within the Palestinian regions, or fundamentalist Sunni organizations, or fundamentalist Shia organizations who have impacted the Hamas in the past, even though the Hamas are Sunni, By the way, there were times when Egypt was under Morsi, after the so-called Arab Spring.
Yes, I
after the so-called Arab Spring, Morsi and Hamas and Turkey were strange bedfellows at the time. They were very, very strange bedfellows at the time.
That's true, actually.
They were talking about having their own little empire, their own little Sunni empire with its own kinds of values to which they adhere. And then the Arab Spring in Egypt became an Arab winter. And all of a sudden, Sisi took over. And as far as Israel's concerned, Sisi is a person that we can work with and trust as a leader of Egypt.
The new leader of Egypt, which was the head of the army. So
the conclusion is that democracy in every single Arab country in the Middle East, according to some Western ideas, is not necessarily the order of the day, because of those Arab Springs in Libya and in Egypt and in Syria and in other countries become Arab winters. Arctic winters, actually. When you look at it, and some of them become failed states. And then within those failed states, there are these organizations who take over in that vacuum. And so we're concerned about our Palestinian neighbors, that some of this Islamic fundamentalism, should not seep in to the Palestinians who live in Judea and Samaria, or who live in Gaza, because within Gaza you have Hamas, but you also have Islamic Jihad. And when Morsi was in power,
he supported them.
He supported them, and today Sisi and the Egyptian people are suffering the consequences of terrorists in Sinai.
Yes, they
and
moved
those terrorists in Sinai were those terrorists who are now in Sinai were assisted by the Iranians,
the Muslim Brotherhood,
but
in the north of Egypt,
and the extreme elements of the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamic Jihad, which is in Sinai, which today Sisi has to deal with, and which were assisted by Hamas, because there were thousands of tunnels between Hamas and Egypt at the time, and arms were going back and forth. And the
Or what?
Arms. Arms were
of,
being...
No, hundred of tunnels.
Hundreds of tunnels. Tunnels between Gaza, between Hamastan and Egypt, during the days of Morsi. And the Iranians were bringing arms through Sudan into Egypt, ultimately, to assist many of those terrorist organizations, etc., etc., etc. So here we are, Israel. It's frustrating for me because I would love the Palestinians to come and sit down with my prime minister and talk. Let's just talk. Let's not promise anything to each other except talk. I'm frustrated because Israel is fantastic technologically. We're fantastic agro-technically. Israel grows its own food. We export food. Israel has some of the finest crop growth in the world. We have high tech. Let's share this with our Palestinian neighbors. Let's make peace.
Jonathan, you mentioned so many things in such a short time that I need to clarify a few things. You mentioned earlier that Egypt, with heavy Morsi, Hamas, and Turkey wanted to have their own empire, Sunni empire.
Yeah.
And they were not very friendly to you.
They were extremely unfriendly to us.
Okay. I was more diplomatic. Okay, very good. Now, the situation changed. Now, you have several, let's say, movements on your territory, if we look to the map.
Yes.
Which are occupied by Palestinians. And they are not supplied anymore with weapons from Egypt, but you say that they're still supplied with weapons from Iran. And my question to you is, why do you, I mean, it's a normal question, but of course, explanations are not always simple. The question is simple, but explanations can be complicated because past is past. What do they gain? I mean, what do the Palestinians gain if they continue the war? Because are you ready to offer them the independence for World Bank, or give them the independence for? You already gave them some independence already on a important part of your territory. Autonomy, yes, on the territory close to Jordan. But what I'm asking you is, explain a little bit. What do they gain? I mean, what do they want? To destroy Israel? Because I don't understand. All these fights, all these games of, they are used by other countries. You have to be allied with other countries. Would you ready to coexist with them? Sorry for the long question.
No, it's a great question. We would be very willing to coexist with them. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has spoken about a two-state solution. But a two-state solution is not something which is overnight. A two-state solution is something that has to go step by step, because there are terrorist organizations which exist in Hamastan, and there are terrorist organizations which exist within Judea and Samaria, and there are individuals who believe that if they detonate a bomb on themselves, they achieve 72 virgins in heaven, and there are individuals who believe that if they stab someone,
sure. And it's happening.
They achieve 72 virgins in heaven. And so there's a tremendous amount of Islamic fundamentalism, intertwined, into some of the nationalism of the Palestinians. And what I think it demands is, for a Palestinian leader, let's find a Palestinian leader who is like Mahatma Gandhi, Yeah. Let's find a Palestinian leader who is like the leader of South Africa, Mandela.
Exactly.
Who had the guts to make the peace. Mandela was in jail for 27 years, but he didn't have a gripe against anyone.
Exactly.
He sat down with that leadership and he made peace.
Yes.
Let's find a Palestinian Mandela, Let's sit down with that person, and then let's work step by step. First, let's make maybe the cities of the West Bank autonomous and pull Israeli troops out, and slowly work step by step and provide more land and more land. There are 3 different Israeli leaders. Ehud Barak promised 97% of the land of Judea and Samaria for a peaceful solution. Ehud Olmert promised, I believe, more than 100% with land exchanges. And Tzipi Livni, another leader, who was working as the foreign minister under Netanyahu, was also speaking about about land exchanges and everything else. So let's sit down and let's make peace with these individuals. The Palestinians have everything to gain. Take a look at the Israeli Arabs. Take a look at the Arabs who live in Israel. Take a look at their per capita income. The per capita income of Israeli Arabs is the highest in the Middle East.
I'm coming back to the question. What do the leaders of these organizations gain by continuing the war?
The leaders of these organizations gain by continuing the war. They get support from radical Islamic organizations who basically will end up supporting them. Okay.
Money. I don't understand what is the benefit.
They get money.
Glory, money.
They get money. They get glory, but they also get.
The population is supporting them.
Much of the population in Judea and Samaria is Hamas. Okay. Because Hamas on the one hand provides social services to the population just like the Hezbollah do in Lebanon. But on the other hand, they have terrorist wings to them. Okay, and so they're working with the people, and so unfortunately, many of those people are willing to have their children commit suicide by being shaheeds, by being martyrs, because it's a belief, because it's some sort of a mantra, because it's some fundamentalist value which in Romania you will never see, and in the state of Israel you will never see, and you'll see, by the way, that Israeli Arabs aren't part of this. Because Israeli Arabs have been exposed to Israeli democracy for decades. And 16% of all university students in Israel are Israeli Arabs.
Let me ask you something. To be the devil's advocate, Jonathan, and we have 4 minutes, so I will shoot the questions and answers very fast. Do you have anything to say that Israel was wrong in this story?
Has Israel been wrong? I think.
I mean, do you have anything to say? Okay, they are wrong, but we also were wrong with this, and this.
I think that Israel has sometimes lost opportunities to make peace. I think that in the 1970s, we had an opportunity way back in the 1970s. We had Yigal Allon and an Allon plan to have certain autonomy on the West Bank. I'm sorry we didn't do it then. Okay, did we make mistakes? Yes. Some people believe, by the way, that the Oslo Accords are a mistake, that we brought back the leadership of all of these terrorists back to Israel. And during those Oslo Accords, Yasser Arafat got the best of us. Perhaps the Oslo Accords were also a mistake, okay? I think that sometimes when we're fighting wars, innocent people get killed.
Sure.
We're not directing the fire at those innocent civilians. But unfortunately, when Hamas are firing rockets or missiles from mosques or schools or hospitals or homes, sometimes innocent people get killed. We feel very badly about that in Israel. The value for human life in Israel is great. You ask Arabs on the West Bank where the best hospitals are, who's treating them, okay? They all come to Israeli hospitals, okay? You ask an Israeli Arab if they'd be willing to leave Israel and live in some Arab country or live in Palestine, okay? They'll tell you they prefer to stay in Israel, okay? Because they see democratic values and they see what we can contribute. So Israel is not a perfect country. Israel is not a perfect country. I sometimes see situations inside Israel itself where we should have been helping Israeli Arab citizens in Israel at a much quicker pace than we've helped them in the past. I think that governments of Israel could have done a lot more in the past. We're doing it now, but we should have done it in the past as well.
Okay. Now, my last question to you is, tell me, how do you see the evolution of the Sunni Shia movements? And again, I think it's the third time, but I'm perseverant. I have this quality of not forgetting my question. Tell me also who is supporting Shia, Sunni, sorry, not only the Shia, besides the Daesh, which is ad hoc organization. How do you see the evolution, and who are the two blocks, if you can put the finger on both of them?
Look, I would say that right now, the Shia bloc is Iran, parts of Iraq, parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, namely Hezbollah. I would say that that Sunni group is part of that Daesh empire which today exists,
Yes.
which was nibbling away at Lebanon and nibbling away at parts of Syria, nibbling away at parts of Iraq. I believe that they're supported by extreme organizations. Some of those organizations have come from Saudi Arabia. Some of those organizations have come from Qatar. Some other countries have looked the other way. Okay, they've raised a monster. It's quite possible that right now that they want to
Yes.
calm that monster.
Yes.
But even if that monster didn't exist, the Shia empire, as the Iranians would like to have it, is of great danger to Egypt and to Jordan and to Saudi Arabia and to the Gulf states and to whatever's left of Lebanon, okay? And is a great danger to Turkey.
Okay, exactly. Let me ask the last question actually, because my colleague is making me signs. In this context, do you think the United States made a mistake by supporting the agreement with Iran?
I personally think
Your personal
that
view.
that the United States made a great mistake supporting the agreement with Iran. We've already seen the Iranians over the last week firing 2 missiles into space. On those 2 missiles, by the way, were written the words, "Missiles like these will one day destroy the state of Israel." And this is after the Iranian agreement. So, in the short term, we're already seeing what a mistake it is. Ask the Gulf states if they think it's a mistake. Ask Saudi Arabia. And ask Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states why. Right now, there are a lot of discussions between them and the state of Israel, and where we find a lot of common ground on how we have to protect the Middle East from this Iranian extreme value of Shia fundamentalism, which, as far as they're concerned, they would like to swallow up the Middle East and create their Shia empire.
Jonathan, we could do not 1, not 10, 20, 30 talk shows and discuss with details these issues, and to me to be the devil's advocate, whatever, just a listener.
My pleasure, Alex.
But the time is killing us, and it just went off. I am very pleased that you came. I am very happy that you came.
Thank you.
I appreciate your experience and the fact that you shared with us your vision about what is happening there, and that you came here in Romania to support and to be close to the Jewish community, which Romanians cherish. I mean, Romania has a great respect for the Jewish community as for any other community. But for the Jewish community and for the louder community, we have a special respect. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
And I promise that I will kidnap you from Israel if you don't come, because I'm sure, I was not a paratrooper, but I will try. I know you have a good defense, but I will try. Still, military defense, but I can try, because we need explanations, and these are difficult to be reached from diplomats.
My pleasure.
They need to talk in their complicated language. But thank you for this honesty and openness in this talk show.
Pleasure.
See you again, and let me say goodbye to our viewers. You can also say goodbye to them.
I would like to say goodbye to our viewers and tell you that Israel loves Romania, and let the bilateral relations continue from strength to strength.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Vă mulțumesc și dumneavoastră pentru că v-ați uitat la această emisiune interesantă, aș spune eu, și îl așteptăm pe Jonathan Davis cu orice altă ocazie să se alăture emisiunii. O seară bună!
Emisiune realizată cu sprijinul Camerei de Comerț și Industrie a României.